ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm Jay Fidell.
And I'm Maria Kashem.
In our show this time, we'll cover the Downtown Forum at Fuller Hall in the Laniakea YWCA on March 27th.
The forum featured a midterm report on the state budget and money bills pending in the 2014 legislature.
The program began with opening remarks by its very able moderator, Bob Toyofuku, a longtime Hawaii lawyer, law professor, and lobbyist.
I usually like to start off when I'm moderating or preparing for a seminar to tell the audience what we're going to cover. And we have talked to the panelists beforehand about some of the subject matters. And so one is the budget, of course, and I think you will probably find out that the Senate passed the budget, their version of the budget, this morning. So they'll talk a little bit about the budget, the Council of Revenues, and the impact that the COR has on the budget and what their current projections are, what makes up the revenue for the state, and what the expenditures are, how they determine priorities, what they may or may not have to cut from the existing budget because of the zero projection by the Council of Revenues. What is the surplus, and how does it come about, and how is it applied to balance the budget, and what is the carryover? And there hopefully we'll talk about the future of our economy, the out years, fiscal year 15, 16, 17, and beyond, and a little bit hopefully about the unfunded liability. Maybe we'll get to some of the specifics if we have enough time, such as the pension system, the rainy day fund, the hurricane relief fund, and any collective bargaining issues that they would like to discuss. Lastly, if you have any questions, as Jay had said, please fill them out on the cards, pass them up forward, and my associate Lisa Concola will pick them up and sort of organize them in case you have any specific questions that is not going to be covered by the panelists. To start off, just to save some time, and for those of you who may not be as familiar with the budget process, I'll just take a minute to just review that, so when the speakers start talking about the budget, you will have some context. The governor first sends the suggested budget to the legislature in mid-December. Then the staff of the Finance Committee in the House and the Ways and Committee in the Senate begin their analysis as soon as the budget is sent to the legislature. So as soon as it starts in December, the staff start working on the numbers, basically. The Finance and Ways and Means Committee then start a detailed budget briefings before the opening session, which is the third Wednesday in January, and the departments, the Judiciary and OHA, present their requests to the Finance and Ways and Means Committees. Then the hearing starts, the legislature opens its session, the hearings begin, and it is ongoing throughout the session until the conference committees start in basically mid-April. And what happens is all of the appropriations bills that are submitted are heard, and I shouldn't say all, whatever appropriations bills are submitted are heard, and also any substantive bills which have funding aspects to it are usually heard at that time.
Bob Toyofuku then introduced the first panelist, State Budget Director Calbert Young.
I guess I'll start off by talking about where we are currently in terms of the legislative process, your overall state budget, and then what I think is a very good prospect on the larger economy for the state of Hawaii going forward. I'm actually rather bullish on the near-term prospects for Hawaii's economy, even in light of where the Council on Revenues forecast currently stands, and even where we are currently in terms of the overall budget being considered by the legislature. The thing to keep in mind is that the Council on Revenues forecast, although it did reduce their revenue forecast for growth, the two things to keep in mind is that they're not negative growth numbers. They are all still strong, positive side growth indicators. For even the current fiscal year, where the council actually reduced its forecast in the current fiscal year from about 3.9% down to 0% over the last 6 months, that's not to say that the revenues are reversing. They're actually indicating, in my opinion, that revenues are currently at its peak levels for the history of the state of Hawaii. And actually, beyond this current fiscal year, revenues are actually forecasted to grow by no less than 5% in any of the next 5 fiscal years. So what that signals to Hawaii is that we are still in a positive economic cycle series that we can look forward to for the next several years. The second thing I always want to point out is that the Council on Revenues is not an indication of the economy in the state of Hawaii. It is purely a translation or forecast of what is the amount of tax revenue, and even at that, it's only the general fund tax revenue that will be coming into the state. A lot of people associate tax revenues to equal the economy. It's not always correlative. And you can look back to a number of recessionary periods that indicate that there isn't a solid correlation between the two. Currently, the revenues, in terms of tax revenues to the general fund, your general fund budget in the state of Hawaii is about $6 billion a year. The total state budget is about $11 to $12 billion. So roughly half of the entire state budget is comprised in the general fund.
Then we heard from David Ige, chair of the Senate Ways and Means Committee. Incidentally, he's a candidate for governor.
Thank you very much. I guess this is a very timely session. The Senate just passed its version, took action on its version of the budget this morning. And so we can, we did think that we have been working with the administration to try to make adjustments in light of the council's downgrade of the forecast. But we did think that after talking over with my colleagues in the Senate that it would be good for us to take action so at least we can get started in conference committee to work through to the final budget items earlier rather than later, especially in light of, for the first time in 3 years, Representative Luke actually had less money to work with in terms of working more money than the Senate did. So this is the first time that the Senate has had to deal with a budget that was more constrained than the House. So as we were looking through the budget, we were focused on doing a couple things, really refocusing again on core functions. So we did look at the executive request and ask the question about, is this a core function that we are trying to be able to deliver better services on, or whether it really was expanding into new areas. And our focus was really focusing again on core functions. Again, and I don't know if Calvert had talked about it, the Council on Revenues reduction really did have significant impact for the Senate. And I just wanted to briefly talk about it. Although the percentage reduction doesn't seem like a lot, when you're working the details of the budget, it is significant. The reduction for fiscal year 13 and 14, the projection went from 3.3% to 0%. In FY 14 to 15, the forecast was for growth of 7.4%, and the revision went down to 5.5%. And then in fiscal year 15 and 16, the projected increase went from 7.7% to 5.0%.
After that, we heard from Sylvia Luke, chair of the House Finance Committee.
I wanted to thank Bob and Jay for inviting us. This is very timely as the Senate just passed the Senate version of the executive budget. What we both WAM and Finance will be getting ready for is to look at the differences in the drafts or come to an agreement on what to do with the budget for the future. I do want to talk a little bit about, I think a lot of people have questions about what happened to the $844 million that was discussed. just a few months ago. And, one of the things I want, since that time, all of us, I think it's been a struggle to try to explain why that money is now all of a sudden so small and gone. And let me just tell you, we were sitting on $844 million. I don't call it a surplus because, when you're sitting on $13 billion of debt, it's not really a surplus. It's just how much you have in the bank at the time. So we had in the bank at the time on June 30th, 2013, because June 30th, 2013 is the date when we find out what the actual amount we have in cash versus an estimate or guesstimate by different economists or Council on Revenues. So on June 30th, we looked at Department of Taxation's collection and we realized, okay, we have $844 million in cash carryover for 2013. What people didn't say when they talked about $844 million, we didn't have $844 million when we went into session because the next day, July 1st, 2013, the state already started spending down the $844. So in fact, last year when we passed the budget, it included, in addition to the budget, a lot of money for collective bargaining raises.
Finally, we heard from Erin Ling Johansson, Minority Whip and co-vice chair of the House Finance Committee.
You can see that the trajectory is to revise downwards. Under Chair Luke's leadership, the House, when it passed its version, was $53 million less than the governor's budget and $127 million less in CIP funding. So you can see from both the House and the Senate perspective that there's some congruence in terms of the trajectory of spending, and that's to reduce it for many of the reasons just articulated by our chair. And I think that's an important takeaway today because it tells you that that idea has resonance in both chambers. The details are going to be debated on, as Chair Ige mentioned, as we go through conference, but that helps you to sort of understand as an institution where the legislative body is coming from. I think what is often lost in discussing the budget is that the budget is a dialogue, but it's also a tool for reform. And I wanted to highlight some of the reforms that Chair Luke has undertaken because I think they're really very significant in posturing us for more responsibly spending taxpayer dollars and for future reform. Some of those include, and some of this has gotten some attention, but I think it bears repeating, how the state handles vacation payouts. And I particularly find interest in many of these reforms because I spent more time in the executive branch than in the legislative branch. So by way of background, when I was at the U.S. Treasury Department, I remember thinking, is this a legitimate congressional question, or is this just the way they're going to penalize me? How do I answer it to the letter of what they asked versus giving away the entire farm and telling them? And there's often a climate of mistrust between the executive and the legislative branches because each is suspicious of the other's motives and each is wondering whether the other is divulging their full picture.
The presentations by the four panelists were followed by Q&A on written questions from the attendees. There were some great questions.
This was a terrific downtown forum. The moderator, Bob Toyofuku, was great, and the panelists were the very people who will be instrumental in determining the issues discussed. You can't do better than that. As they say, it was all coming from the horse's mouth.
The media were there too, including the Honolulu Star-Advertiser, Hawaii Public Radio, the Hawaii Reporter, and Civil Beat, all of whom reported on the program.
We were delighted with the number and sophistication of the attendees who came to see the forum, and this encourages us to continue this public policy series throughout the year.
When we asked the attendees what kind of issues they would like to see covered in the future, they were amenable to programs on agriculture, medicine, and military changes in Hawaii, and we will proceed accordingly.
We also asked the attendees for their comments and reactions to the program, and here's what they said.
I think we got a lot of the questions answered that we wanted to, and the All of the panelists were very candid and forthright, so I think the audience enjoyed it.
Thanks. Did a great
Welcome.
job.
Oh,
Beautiful.
thank you.
What do you think? Councilmember Haramoto? How did it go for you?
Oh, this is great. It's really interesting discussion, interesting facts that came out, honest discussion. That was great.
Thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
What do you think of this today? What did you learn?
I learned quite a bit, especially about where dollars matter in our state. I thought it was great. It was very informative. I'm excited about the next event you're doing with agriculture. It's something that's very dear to us.
Oh, I thought it went well. You know, the budget is one of those things that we have to live with. I believe it is an important way to shape government. And, you know, the budget is the most important thing that we do at the Capitol. It is about making choices, about setting priorities. And I think legislature has been working to ensure that the unfunded liabilities is a priority, and then secondarily really looking at core functions and not doing government expansion where it shouldn't be, and really focus on those core services.
What about the possibility of an agriculture program next month?
I think it's great. I want to share our information on investment opportunities, our current status of aquaponics progress, and other opportunities with everybody, and I hope we can attract more investors. And this is really a promising opportunity. Not everybody knows about it, but it can be a Silicon Valley of aquaculture.
I thought it was a great session, and thank you so much for putting it on. I think hearing the perspectives of the administration plus our legislators was very good in terms of seeing where the budget is, what is in the budget or isn't, and you know that's a very complicated thing, but very hopeful that we've got good people shepherding the budget. So I look forward to seeing what happens and actually hatches in May.
It's interesting to learn about the budget process. For me, you know, I'm just not familiar with the budget at all. And being a new department chair at UH in my department, I had to get to know more about the budget. So it's good to hear all the processes. And one of the questions I had was about the funding of the university, because the university is in a lot of trouble in terms of financial downturn and shrinking budget, and so we'll see how this comes out, especially for the university.
So what do you think of this program?
I loved it. I think if we can believe in what we've seen, which is the coherence of the different interests coming together, I think we're entering a whole new era. I can't help but feel very good about it, and I think there's a good energy and a sincerity of the people you put together to be on this panel. I just, what can I say? It was great. And I'm glad I came, and it was worth every penny I invested in.
Calvin, what do you think of the program? How'd it go for you?
I thought it was very good. I mean, it's always interesting to hear what the other panelists, any legislators have to say, getting their perspective and their philosophy on it. But I hope that the same can be said for them hearing in terms of what the administration has to say. I think what listeners and viewers probably took away was there wasn't a whole lot of difference in terms of overall philosophy, except for maybe like in certain key areas. But I think what everybody should appreciate is that, you know, when we have a synergy in terms of moving forward, all with everybody with the targeted objective to improve state government financially. So I thought the setup and the format was very good, and it was a pleasure to be on the panel.
If you have any suggestions for issues to be covered by the Downtown Forum, please let us know. If you'd like more information about our monthly panel programs, visit thinktechhawaii.com. now let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
ThinkTech broadcasts video and audio for all of our talk shows live on the internet from 1 to 5 p.m. every weekday afternoon. If you missed a show or you want to replay or share any show, they're all archived on YouTube.
Visit ThinkTechHawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links, or to join our email list and get these links and advisories on our upcoming shows.
We also invite you to be part of our live audience at our downtown studio in Pioneer Plaza. Contact Jay at ThinkTechHawaii.com. Raise your awareness in every way on ThinkTech.
On Wednesday, April 23rd, ThinkTech and its friends will present a downtown forum on the amazing new technology in agriculture, aquaculture, and aquaponics, and how it's changing Hawaii. This will feature a moderator and panel of experts from government, farming, banking, and academia. You can sign up for this program on ThinkTechHawaii.com.
And now, here's this week's ThinkTech news.
Flash, a mainland company, RGS, is acquiring local PV installer Synetric. It's the latest in a series of strategic acquisitions by RGS, headquartered in Colorado. RGS claims the move allows it to make rapid entry into a major market that has the highest electricity rates in the U.S. That's true. Electricity prices in Hawaii are as much as 3 times the national average, and that drives activity in the solar power market at both residential and commercial levels. RGS is one of the nation's pioneering solar energy companies. Beginning with one of the very first PV panels sold to the public in 1978, RGS has installed 20,000 solar power systems and 170 megawatts of renewable energy in 30 states. The acquisition comes at a time when RGS faces tough challenges from companies like SolarCity and retailers like Home Depot and others who are selling online. Analysts have said that RGS must expand to keep up with the competition. Last August, RGS acquired Denver-based Syndicated Solar for $3.5 million and Mercury Energy for $35 million. Now Synetric is a part of that expansion. Synetric, whose real name is Elemental Energy, works in residential and commercial sectors. It was founded 10 years ago and has installed 65 megawatts in 3,500 projects in Hawaii. Synetric's revenue for 2013 exceeded $38 million. Synetric has several large projects pending in Hawaii, including utility-scale projects and the installation of PV systems atop 78 Hawaiian telecom facilities across the state. The RGS deal is expected to close in the next quarter. RGS will pay $16 million, including $7 million cash, $9 million of common stock, and $3 million for potential earn-out payments. The Synetric brand will remain intact, and its 90 employees will join RGS as a division. Alex Tiller, CEO of Synetric, moved to Denver last September to create a mainland headquarters for Synetric. He was also set to buy out Synetric founder Sean Mullen at the end of last year, but that deal didn't happen. My intention was to use Synetric as a platform company to buy more solar companies in other parts of the country, Tiller said. Right around the same time, there were a few conversations with RGS, and our company cultures meshed. It seemed like a better opportunity to roll us into the fold. Although Tiller will now be a special advisor to RGS, he will also focus on building a new startup, AutoWatts. This will operate in Denver and Honolulu and will help customers pair their electric vehicles with PV systems. What does this deal signify? For one thing, that a PV company in Hawaii can be of significant interest and value in the maturation of the national market, despite the interconnection problems we have in Hawaii. The deal also signifies that national companies are in a process of acquiring local installers and are increasingly controlling the industry here. Are those good developments? You decide. Maria Kashem, ThinkTech. We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech, but first we want to thank our underwriters.
Castle & Cook, Hawaii. Investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state. Collateral Analytics. Empowering the real estate industry to make better informed property investment decisions. The Foreign Trade Zone. Bringing the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone programs to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. Galen Ho, a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company. Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island. The Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, incorporating diverse perspectives to design a flexible and forward-looking energy strategy. Hawaii Energy, the state's energy and efficiency program created to help Hawaii's residents and businesses adopt a clean energy lifestyle. Hawaii Gas, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future. Hawaii Pacific Health, bringing technology and teamwork together to transform healthcare in Hawaii. The High Tech Development Corporation, attached to DBED, is the state's leading technology agency. The Scheidler Family Foundation, supporting educational, cultural, and charitable organizations, including ThinkTech. Okay, Maria, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like Duke Oishi does. For additional times, check out oc16.tv.
Definitely, Jay. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be a guest or a volunteer, a producer or studio intern, and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Jay Fidell. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. Aloha, everyone.
I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.